Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Hype with Black Enterprise, the #1 Black media brand now, with more than 8 million unique visitors. As you know, I've been doing a series, kind of a mini series with Beyond the Hype, talking about the state of Black men. You know that the next virtual summit, Black Men Excel, is coming up in November 17th and 18th. And for the last couple of shows, I've had speakers from past Black Men Excel summits come on to kind of give you kind of an idea of what we're going to be talking about, but more importantly, to talk about the excellence and leadership of Black men, the legacy that we have and the legacy we must build on if we're going to continue to move forward. So I got the perfect guest, a good brother, a good friend of Black Enterprise, a good friend to me, who's all about excellence and male identity. And that is the actor, the author, the multiple Emmy Award nominated actor, author, entrepreneur, speaker, and champion of male excellence and male identity and Black male excellence in particular, Dondré Whitfield. Bro, what's up? How you doing?
My brother, this is always a great time to be able to sit down with you, have a conversation, even though a bunch of people will be listening to our conversation. It always feels like a conversation that you and I would have anywhere that we are, because we usually get into this no matter where we are, because we really are about this life. More than almost anyone that, while I've been in this industry for 40 years, acting is my passion, but activation truly is my purpose. So activating our brothers to come to the better versions of themselves, that is absolutely what I live for.
And that's something I think is really special about you, man, because it's not like you haven't excelled in your profession. You're a great actor. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
I know you got a NAACP Image Award nomination for your role in Queen Sugar. That maybe with this current generation knows you from.
Right.
But you've been in the game for a minute doing some great work for a very, very long time. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that you excelled at that. You excel at that. But you still have this mission that you serve really faithfully, that really drives you every day.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying it. Often you'll see folks sort of take a different path when their career seems to fizzle off or dry up. But I, in fact, have walked away from some jobs. Because I feel so tied to what this really is, because it's my purpose. I know that on every set that I've ever been on in my life, I've never gotten the feeling being on, even with some of the and consider that I went from playing Robert to Remy. Robert on the Cosby Show, which was my first job, and Remy on Queen Sugar, which was my last, big job.
Wow.
And so, that spans 40 years, 4 decades in this industry. And so I'm definitely true to that part of the game, but none of the feelings that I've gotten from working on those great sets, working with some of the dynamic people that I've worked with, have ever given me the sense of fulfillment that I get in walking out my purpose, because God actually didn't choose acting for me. And I know that very many people are going to be watching this right now going, how could you say that? God doesn't. God blesses things that we choose for ourselves and that we work toward. So whatever it is that you choose for yourself and that you put in considerable work for, God blesses that, right? This is where, scripture talks about, faith without works is dead,
Yes.
right? So we hear that all the time. Nobody really knows what that means. Well, what that really means is that you could sit here and you could say, I have faith that God is going to bless me with what I endeavor to do. But without me putting in the work to actually do what it is that I say I endeavor to do, all of that is dead, right?
Absolutely.
So God didn't choose acting for me. God said, what do you choose for yourself? Okay, well, let me see you work for that. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bless you with opening this door, which is an audition right? Still never giving us the thing. So God is not our genie in a bottle.
Right,
So we're
right.
not going to rub the bottle and then all of a sudden we become, we have a Denzel Washington career. It doesn't work that way. So I just to give you an example, because I'm a person who loves using analogies in order to bring clarity to things that we're talking about. I had a brother come to me one day and he said, I love acting. I think that I'm supposed to do this, but I don't feel like God wants it for me. And I said, well, explain that to me. He said, well, I had an audition for this role, and I was like, it's going to be perfect for me. I got to pray on it. I had to pray on it. So I stayed prayed up, because that's what we got to do as believers, Dondré. We got to stay prayed up. I said, right. She said, so I was prayed up, I went into this audition and, I didn't get the role. So I felt, I really feel like, God just didn't want that for me. And I said, okay, let me ask you a question. You stayed prayed up, but were you prepared up?
Mm.
And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I know you were praying, but did you prepare? Meaning, when you were looking at the sides, did you know it backwards and forward? Did you do your research on the character? Did you know the script backwards and forward? Did you know the relationships between your character and all the other characters? Did you create a backstory for your character so that you could make this character go from 2D to 3D, right? Did you do that? Because that's really what was going to get you the job. You see, yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but really, I mean, because you're a believer, right? I said, yes,
No,
I am a believer.
Yep.
He said, but as a believer, if God don't bless you with it, then you're not going to get it. I said, my brother, God had already blessed you because you got the audition.
Yes.
That was the blessing.
Yes. And what God needed to see was, what were you going to do with it? Meaning, not that you get it or not. The work, the preparation, that's how you show God that you really mean it.
What you're saying is exactly, look at it this way, right? So we father a bunch of children, our biological children, our bonus children, right? I have many of those.
Right.
But my biological children, as a father, I ask my child what they want. They tell me what it is that they want. And then I wait. I sit back to see what work they're going to put in order to bless themselves. Whatever they can't give themselves in the way of pursuing what it is that they want, I come in and do for them what they can't do for themselves.
Yes.
But I refuse to give them everything, because if I give them everything, I won't be blessing them. I actually will be cursing them. Yes. Because I will get them to think that this is how life is going to go in general, that all of a sudden there's going to be some presto changeo thing that's going to happen minus their work, and that life is going to go that way. It is not. So that's just me being the earthly father. So if I'm the earthly
by the way,
father,
to your point, if you do that, not only will you be cursing them, they will be bitter.
Absolutely that.
Because they'll be like, this is unfair. I prayed for it. I asked for it. I'm supposed to get it. Why am I not getting it?
Absolutely that. So this is what I'm teaching them as their earthly father, is how to be in relationship with their heavenly father.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So when they have a conversation with me, their earthly father, hey, God, Dad, this is what I want. Like, this is how we do it. We go to our dads, our earthly dads, then we go to our heavenly fathers, right? And so we sit there and we go, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'm trying to do. And then we sit back as fathers and we wait to see what kind of work we put in. And whatever you can't do for yourself, your father will do for you.
Yes.
In order to make that happen. But first, waiting to see what kind of work that you're putting in. So to get back to that brother, I said, from now on, I want you to know that you are going to be blessing yourself exponentially based on the kind of work that you put in, because that's all that God is waiting to do, is to see what you're doing. And once he sees what kind of work you've put in, if that suits him, then he will give you everything that you need to get you across the finish line. But you were already blessed by getting the audition. You
Or he
needed
will
to
give you
bless
something
yourself.
better
Absolutely.
because you demonstrated the work. It was like, yes, you did the work. You did the preparation. You showed me you really wanted it. No, you didn't get this audition, but that work is going to get you this other thing that's even better. And let's be clear. Let's be clear. Our Heavenly Father knows exactly what we can do and can't do.
That's exactly
because He created us and built us and gifted us. So we can't say, "Oh, I can't do it." He's like, "I know what you can do. You could have did that."
Absolutely right. And to your point, to further that, when we sit, when God sees what we're doing, sometimes we actually pray. I always tell people, don't pray cheap.
Oh yeah.
Don't pray cheap. Don't pray to get a, God, just send me a man. God, just send me a car. Well, you might get a car, but it may not run. You didn't ask for a car that runs well. You just asked for a car. Pray for exactly what you want. Sometimes we actually pray for less than what we should have. So sometimes God, based on the work that He sees that you're doing, will actually, to your point, level you up because He's well pleased with the work that you're putting in. So sometimes you will get blessed beyond the measure that you even saw for yourself.
Bruh, and you don't know how you're pouring into me because, first of all, I could do another hour with you on just the spiritual revelations of this past 18 months that brought me through. I'm actually reading Charles Stanley's book, Success God's Way, and it's blowing my mind. And again, we look at ourselves by worldly standard, and people are like, "Oh, you're doing great. You're Alfred Edmond with Black Enterprise. You're doing great." I was like, "I'm doing great according to a worldly standard."
That's right.
But I found out over these last 2 years, over that the godly standard, I still got a lot of work to do. And then you talk about praying bigger. I got to go higher. I've got to draw closer. So you know how you and I are. So
come on, man.
We could go on forever.
I know exactly what it is because people look at me and they go, "Hey, man, wow, you've done it." And I'm like, "Man, I'm just getting started."
Thank you.
I'm just getting started. Like, the gray that you see in this beard is only the accomplished wisdom that I now can apply to the things that I really want to do. So I'm just getting started.
Absolutely. Let's pivot a little bit because we are here to talk about where do we go from here, and particularly as Black men. And you know the deal. We're navigating a global pandemic, and maybe on some level, the quote unquote the worst is over, but it is not over as clearly. We're talking about navigating the fight for economic justice, racial equity. That is not a new fight, but obviously has been elevated to some degree. I think we've reached a certain degree of a renaissance in the Black community among Black men that we are finally at least ready to address things like Black wellness, mental wellness, what's a healthy, and it's a big part of your work. What does it mean to be a healthy man? And healthy is not just healthy for you, but healthy for those you're in a relationship, women, children. And I do want to make sure people, if you haven't read Dondré's book, Male versus Man, How to Honor Women, Teach Children, and Elevate Men to Change the World, you need to go pick up that book. You just need to. You need to pick it up for yourself. Sisters, if you got sons, husbands, brothers, just pick up that book. But all that to say, Dondré, again, when I thought about talking about this particular topic, I was like, Dondré, you're perfect for this because we're talking about where we've been, where we are now, but where we go. So give me your broad take of what we've experienced in general and as Black men up to date and where your head is right now in terms of your work, your mission, your passion.
Yeah, it's so our experience is so nuanced because we come into a society. People say, they often tell us, they often remind us, this country is really good at reminding us at how great our country is, overlooking the fact that as a Black man in this society, there is no way that you grow up in this society and not inherit the PTSD that comes with it. despite all of my accomplishments over 4 decades of being an actor, if I get pulled over, it will not hold me exempt from the kind of treatment that far too many of our brothers have to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, same here.
We've seen it happen time and time again. While I am famous to the degree that people have seen my body of work over that period of time, but I am not the kind of famous that instantly everyone will know who I am. And so at times I've been pulled over realizing that I am dealing with a person that has the potential to do me harm. One time in particular, I got pulled over out of the carpool lane. I was driving my car. It's an electric car. And so I get pulled over because there's no one else in the car. Well, as a Tesla is an electric car, and you can ride the carpool lane and not need a second passenger to ride the carpool lane. So I get out of this vehicle, and the manner of questions, the hostility, the aggressiveness in the questions, the looping around, the hand already on the weapon, despite the fact that I had I put out a video on YouTube about how to do a proper police stop with a friend of my sister, former Sergeant, LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. I put out a video just because I was tired of seeing our brothers seeing them fight the right battles, but at the wrong time.
Yes.
And in the wrong way with the wrong tone. So put this video out. So I'm very well versed. One of the things that I immediately do is put those windows down so that the officer can see inside the vehicle and see that there is no threat. Because when I put my hands up on the steering wheel, I've got the webs of my thumbs up on the steering wheel and my fingers are spread. Why? In order for the officers to see I'm not holding anything, they can see inside the vehicle, they can see no one else is inside the vehicle, and I always have my license, my registration, and my insurance paper clipped together on the dashboard of my vehicle.
Wow.
Why do I do that? So I don't have to reach for anything. Because what you're not going to do is say, yeah, oh, can I reach in there? And then you freak out and shoot me because you're afraid. So when an officer says, can I see your credentials? I say, absolutely. They're in front of me on the dashboard. Can you reach them? No, sir. I respectfully decline. Could you please grab that care package that I have prepared for you? It has my license, my registration, and my insurance, paper clipped together for you. And I say that with all due respect.
Wow.
Why? Because at the end of the day, some people will say, white people don't have to do that. Why should I have to go through that? You're absolutely right. White folks don't have to go through that. But what are they going to put on my tombstone?
Right.
Here lies a brother that shouldn't have had to go through all of that. And meanwhile, I leave behind a wife of 19 years, a partner of 24 years, 2 children, a 17-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son. Do I now have a conversation with them from my spirit to tell them, hey, listen, I died for the right reasons. I died because white people don't have to do that. No way.
The mission is survival.
Survival. My job is to make sure that I get back here to man my post.
You know,
That's it.
Dondré, and I mean, I don't know maybe technically there's black men that have never been through this. I don't know any of them.
Right.
I had one encounter, Dondré. I actually was in my hometown of Long Branch, New Jersey, which I still love to this day, because I was inducted into my high school's academic Hall of Fame. Wow. So after the ceremony,
academic.
Yes, academic.
I don't want anyone to miss that, because see, brothers, we get celebrated for our athletic achievements. Yeah. So I don't want you to miss that this brother was put into the academic Hall of Fame. Go on, brother.
Yes. So, you know, you're in your hometown, because I don't live there anymore, but say, okay, before I leave town, let me drop and see some people before I leave town. Mm-hmm. So it's in the evening. I stop a few places and get pulled over. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And like you said, the main goal was to survive the encounter. Just survive the encounter and get home. And that, your story and so many of our stories in a nutshell is like you said, the PTSD. And that's for those of us who are successful, accomplish all those things. In your case,
yes,
you know, and still doesn't matter.
And after all of that, he goes back, checks my credentials, and I could tell by the way he came back. What he did was, because I said to him, I threw this little nugget in there, and he said, well, where are you coming from? And I said, well, I don't believe that's relevant to why I'm being pulled over, but if you must know, I'm coming from People magazine. I just finished doing, because I'm a correspondent for People TV. And I just finished doing a piece on racism with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I sat there and I let that settle. And he said, oh, great. He grabs my credentials, goes back to the car. I could tell by the way he came back, with the manner that he came back with. Sir, Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
I didn't have any of that prior to that. I became Mr. Whitfield after he Googled me, because I know that's exactly what he did. He Googled me to see if my story was matching up. So unlike many of our brothers that don't have the benefit of that layer of celebrity, far too many of us are going through that PTSD every single day, and we underestimate what it does to us. How often do you see men and women together, still married, elderly couple, the woman still has her gait. She's still walking pretty much upright. She looks pretty well. And the brother looks like it's getting ready to end any second.
True.
He's in a wheelchair. He's on a cart. He's hunched over. He's walking slow. She's walking up ahead of him, turns around. She's waiting for him to catch up.
And that plays itself out. I mean, we already know that the shortest life expectancy is Black men.
Period.
And, women in general, Black women in particular, live longer. Like you said, more energetic, more. So you're right. It's not just an analogy. It's not just anecdotal. It's
right.
It's real statistics.
Those are facts. Statistically, those are facts.
Yes.
Now, let me point out why. Our sisters are allowed to have community with themselves.
Yes.
To pour out and to pour in to each other. And it is not frowned upon. Our brothers, however, we're not allowed to talk about any moments of weakness. We're not allowed to talk about Today, I'm not okay.
Right.
We're not allowed to cry.
We're not that
We're
allowed
not
to admit
allowed.
that we had trauma.
Oh, we're not allowed. Oh, trauma. Oh, you must be a punk.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
you couldn't take that. You can't take that. At 6 years old, my father kidnapped me from my mother. At 8 years old, I saw the first person that I ever saw get killed directly in front of me,
Mm,
tops 10
mm,
feet away.
mm.
At 12, my father had effectively taught me how to become a cheater. At 14, I had a gun put to my head while they robbed my best friend of his leather bomber jacket. Okay, so by the age of 14, I was on my way, traumatically speaking, to either going to jail, murdering someone, or killing myself. By the age of 14. Now, to
Mm.
put this in the proper context, I have this gun put to my head at the age of 14. By the age of 15, I had my first job on the Cosby Show.
Wow. Wow.
So 1 year later, after this extraordinarily traumatic event, I was playing a 13-year-old boy at the age of 15, playing 13, that was just uncovering the wondrous beauty of life.
Mm, mm, mm.
And the toughest thing that my character would have to do in the course of his day was to figure out what kind of beautiful sweater he was going to wear that day.
Talk about
So
acting.
when people often ask me, what's the greatest role you think you've ever done? What's the greatest piece of it? And I said, hands down, Robert. Because by that time, I had already had sex. I had already been shot at. I had already had a gun put to my head. I had been kidnapped by my father. I had already seen people be murdered, all of these things. And now I'm standing across from Tempest Bledsoe, and we're acting like two innocent 13-year-olds that have beautiful, wondrous love budding between them.
Wow.
And that is what we have to do every single day. The same acting that I put forth on the Cosby Show, Black people have to put forth every single day when they go into their area of business or deal with a neighbor. We have to try to hide all of our trauma and not allow that trauma to propel us into the situational happenings that we are exposed to every single day, because we're trying to show everyone that we're non-threatening based on all the trauma that we're carrying every day, right? So that's where we are. That's where we've been. That's what we've been through. Where do we go from here?
Well, let me just
Because
lay out something for
yeah,
our audience, because
yes,
Dondré, just what you laid out is exactly why your anointing is so powerful in this space. Everything you laid out, and then they will say not only you was a 15-year-old playing a 13-year-old whose life was markedly different from what you had experienced to that point, which means you had to know how to act from jump.
totally.
But today, again, if people who don't look deeply into you, they see a handsome, successful actor with a gorgeous wife and two beautiful children, living their quote unquote American dream. And the power of your anointing is that when you see where you started from and where you are today, and what you do with where you are today, your commitment to teaching excellence as part of the male identity. Just the title of your book, Honoring Women, Teaching Children, and Elevating Men, which is what you do, and and you're not just doing it so Dondré can do it. You spent your time saying, how can I replicate Dondré and get more men to do this? But a lot of people will look at that and say, that's impossible. How can he be that person and do what he's doing now? Why? So I think that really underscores your credibility when you say, where do we go from here? Because even with acknowledging all of that trauma, all of that injustice, all that unfairness, you still challenge us to elevate ourselves and to operate at a higher standard of excellence. So go ahead, just talk about, where you think we should be going. But that whole idea that even with all of that, you're still saying, no, we still have to step up despite all of that.
Absolutely that, because, and I appreciate you saying, and I'm humbled by it, brother, because you're a man of measured words. So I know that, that you mean what you say. And so again, I'm humbled by it, but absolutely, despite all the things that we have to endure, despite all the things that we have to allow, ourselves space to go through, there's still room for us to heal ourselves, number one, to elevate ourselves, number two, and then serve as the medicinal ointment that our community needs. I truly believe, and this is with all due respect to all of our sisters, my grandmother, may she rest in peace, my mother, my wife, even my 17-year-old daughter, with all due respect to all of our sisters, I truly believe that our community will be greatly resuscitated when our brothers are dynamically activated. Our sisters serve as great nurturers. They are the great givers of life, but men are the great drill instructors. And we don't have enough drill instructors. It's kind of like there's a reason why they don't allow moms to go with you to boot camp. Because your child, let's look at sons in particular, your son is about to be turned into a soldier ready to engage in war out on the battlefield. What the drill instructors have to do to your son in order to prepare him for that battle ahead, you are not going to like. As his mother, as his first teacher, as his giver of life, you won't be able to stomach it. I often give this example of Jaden Smith when he was preparing for the role on Karate Kid.
Yes.
They are trying to shoot the cover of the movie, and he's supposed to be in the splits. And he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. They had to step on his legs in order to force and stretch that band for him to get all the way down. Excruciating pain. Will, his father, knew what was required of his son in order for him to be prepared for the battle ahead. Jada, his mom, as tough as she is,
I hear you,
the nurturer of his life, the giver of his life, couldn't take it. She was going to step in and stop it.
Because there's no way she's not going to see it as her baby.
That's her baby, no matter what.
No matter what happens.
Will said, babe, this has got to happen. This is how it goes. She, nope. This is going to stop right now. Jaden had to say, Mom, I got this. I got this. There's a reason why moms are not allowed to go to boot camp with their sons, because you're not going to like what the preparation of creating a soldier, what the process is of preparation for creating a soldier is like. Oftentimes, with all due respect to my wife, you know how much I love my wife. We've been together for 24 years. We've been married for 19 of those. Respectfully, I have to often enough say to my wife, babe, not now. Not Now, I'm raising my son. I'm raising my son. Don't get in the middle of me raising my son. Because despite all the values that you give him, which are absolutely essential, because what we want is a well-rounded human being. But there's only going to be one person in this house that can teach him how to be a man. And that's the man that's in his life. That's where many of,
that's
go ahead.
Multi-generational implications. And I'm only thinking,
Totally.
I'm a father of 4 children, one
Yes.
son, only one son, 3 daughters.
Yes.
And I had daughters before I had the son. So yeah, being a girl dad, that was
That's a different
a
role.
whole different thing.
That's a
When
different
my son
role.
came along, I'm just, when you're telling the story of you and your wife and your son, I was thinking about all the times that I had to go against his mother.
Yes.
And times that she was like, I can't believe you did that to him.
I can't believe you did that.
Said that to him. I can't believe you drew that hard line. And
Yes.
I bring that up to say, I became a grandfather for the first time this year because my son and his wife had a son.
Yes.
And Dondré, when I look at, I mean, even before his son was born, and I looked over the last 10 years of how protective he is of his mother and his sisters, how responsible he is, how he honors his wife as a young man. He's only going to turn 30 this year. I mean, he's a young man.
Right.
But I kept going back to saying, thank God. First of all, God is a model for fatherhood, as you've already pointed. And it's like, thank God you gave me the strength to do what maybe would not have been done had I not been in his life. Because my son is the firstborn son of his generation. And his mother's Caribbean. And in that culture, I'll speak for what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
The girls do all the stuff and the dudes the women wait on the men. And I was looking for this accident waiting to happen. I was like, my son he's charming already. He's handsome. He's the firstborn son. Every woman in the family's been waiting for him to arrive.
Yep.
And if I don't step in and do and say some things along the way, this kid will be ruined by the time he's 15.
Totally.
But like you said, you had to, as men, we had to say and do some things. As fathers.
Listen, by the way, my son is 12 years old. My wife, and my wife is no shrinking violet, okay? No, she's from the south side of Chicago. My wife ain't no punk, okay?
No, she is not.
My wife can't do anything with my son already, and he's 12. She can't get him to budge. She will often, I'll say something, and it's hilarious to me because at times I'll hear her struggle and I'll go, Dre, and goes, babe, I got it. And I go, and she'll sit there and she's grappling with him. And then she goes, listen. And then she'll go, babe. And then you hear my son go, okay. Because he knows that immovable accountability is coming for him. I've never, not one day, hit my son. Not once. My son just has a knowing that my father could change the course of my life at the snap of a finger. I know my father is serious about this business. I know my father is not going anywhere. Now, I have never hit my son, but I have righteously threatened to change the course of his life. If he didn't do what was required of him, that's called healthy fear. And far too many of our young boys don't have a healthy fear of their fathers or father figures.
Right. And then that expands to authority in general.
That's right. Right. So my son is not worried about what his teachers, police officer, anybody else is going to do to him. He's worried about, when my father shows up on the scene, what's going to happen? That is where we have to hold our children lovingly but firmly accountable all the time. They have to know what that is. And I tell my son all the time, I am your drill instructor for manhood, bro. My job is to teach you what this life is about, because you can only become a great man based on everything I give you. Everything that your mother gives you, you're going to be have those values to level yourself up as a human being. But in terms of you being the man that you're ultimately going to become, it's going to come as a direct result of everything I give you.
But see, this is where I want to expand the conversation around your work and your mission, and then to this conversation about where we go from here. And I really want you to do what you do so well, which is to charge all of us to be on this mission, because we know a lot of boys don't have that man in their life.
Yes.
Or
yes.
they have that man in their life, but the man that's in their life never had that man in their life, so they can't.
That's right.
You don't know, and which is why you've been so faithful to this idea that we can't just. You and I could easily have just stopped with our boys.
That's right.
Like, I'm going to get him right. I don't know what's happening with the rest of the world, but
I'm done.
You could have done that. But we both know that if we do that, that's a disservice to him, because he's going to go out thinking, and it does a disservice. It's not going to address the whole issue of us moving forward as Black people and as Black men in particular. So
totally.
talk about, again, back to this idea, where do we go from here? Run down what we need to be doing. Because it's not just about where we need to go, it's about what we need to do. I know you've already talked about this across the country in speeches and in panels and on webinars and in your book and in your YouTube video series, which I think is really well done. But what do we need to, not only where do we need to go from here, what do we need to be doing from here?
Yeah, our number one problem, in my humble opinion, is that we don't have enough men that create other men. It's devastating. Think of it this way. Think of it like an apprenticeship. If you were endeavoring to do a specific job at a specific level of excellence, we used to have apprenticeships.
Yes.
So, okay. Every time I have this conversation, I always preface it with this example. And in talking to our brothers, I go, raise your hand if you're a basketball fan. Well, you're going to be hard pressed to find a bro who just watches hockey.
Right.
Every brother either knows something about basketball, is a fan of basketball, or is a fan of somebody who is a great player. They all raise their hand. I say, name me your greatest player, or your favorite player. Kobe's, LeBron's, MJ's, Kareem's, Magic's, so on and so forth. There's no wrong answer. Now name me the one thing that they all had in common, that if they didn't have this thing, they never would have become the great player that they became. Name it. Talent. What else? Grit. Yeah. Stick-to-itiveness. Yeah. Natural talent. Yeah. We keep going through all of these, and they're scratching their head. You guys are missing the one thing that if they didn't have this one thing, they never would have become the great player that they became. They were always going to be a good player based on their natural talent. They were all going to be a good player based on their drive, their push, all of those things. But to become a great player, you're missing the one thing that they all needed, that they all got. Coaching.
Yes. Say it again.
Coaching.
Yes.
In order for you to become great at anything in this life, you talked about my career as an actor. I've always had natural ability. I've always had a natural gift. Guess what I got? Coaching. I had great acting teachers. If we know that you need coaching in order to become a great basketball player, why is it that we think we don't need coaching in order to become a great man?
Which is why your point is, and I've made this point too in my work in my life too. All you got to do to become an adult male is to stay alive.
That's it.
That's all you got to do. Get past puberty. You're a man. You're a male. You're done.
Have a penis.
Exactly. Your penis and make it through puberty. You're there.
Keep breathing.
To be a man, in my lexicon, to be a grown man, not just an adult male, requires coaching. It requires intentionality. It requires models. It requires practice. It requires experience. It doesn't just happen, which is why you and I both know men, who are 90, who are not really men. They're just really old adult males.
They're just grown-up males.
Absolutely.
That's it. So when we say grown male, for folks who are really kind of lost, picture your body fully grown. Your pecs, your facial hair, all that stuff. 6 foot, whatever. Your body grown. Your mind, your spirit, your emotional capacity, still stuck in the space of a boy. Grown body, all those other areas, boy. A man has to evolve himself. Look, we talked about God, right? And we talked about, all throughout the Bible, we talk about free will. Free will. Meaning, God gives us a whole bunch and then leaves us to do a whole bunch. God chose whether you were going to be male or not.
Yep.
Soon as you're born, they look for 2 things to check the box of male or female. Up, penis. Up, breathing. Male. Check.
Yep.
God chose whether you were going to be male or not, but left it up to you to choose whether you were going to be a man or not.
And I had this revelation over the summer. We are the only creatures in the universe that can choose to operate against God's design.
That's right.
Everything else in the whole universe operates according to God's design because they don't know it. We're the only ones that can choose otherwise.
And often we do. Too often we do.
Too often we do.
Too often we do. Right. And so now we're sitting here and we're talking about how to be this. I talked about those other 3 areas. Look, the physicality is easy. The physicality is easy. Have you leveled up in the area of spirituality?
Yes.
Emotionally, have you leveled up? Mentally, have you leveled up? Right? Because in the grand scheme of things, those are going to dictate what kind of man you ultimately become and whether you can provide covering for the women and children in your life. That's why I said, I father, obviously, my biological children, but I got a whole bunch of bonus children. They're everywhere. Boys and girls.
Same here.
I am serious about growing my boys because I know that my greatest gift to society is, look, our sisters, generally speaking, show up.
True.
Their prefrontal cortex comes into play way earlier than ours. Way earlier than ours. Because God is preparing them to be the first giver, first nurturer of life. Their prefrontal cortex has to be in place because they're about to carry a child. They can't be running around making terrible and dangerous decisions.
Right, taking all kinds of risks and
they can't do that because they are the incubator of life. So God said, I got to make sure that your prefrontal cortex is attached a lot sooner. Our boys, however, now watch this. Look at the design. We talk about design. I tell folks often, look, when you see a boy, like I often hear when I used to coach my son's baseball teams, basketball teams, I would hear moms ask me all the time, Coach, what is wrong with my son? He makes decisions. I never would make those decisions. Like, they're crazy. It's ridiculous. Like, I would never make those decisions. Sometimes, what is wrong with my son? Ma'am, nothing.
Yes, and that's important. By the way, that's important to say, to protect and nurture and grow men as well.
Sure.
That's so important. There's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with your son. What is wrong with your son through the filter that you're looking at it with is that he is a completely different animal. You are a female. He is a male, and we're wired completely different. He is now going through the stage. If we didn't live in a quote unquote civilized society, you know what he would be doing right now? And they said, what? Hunting.
Yep.
So all of the things that you're talking about that to you sound dangerous, that sound opposite of everything that you would do, yeah, because it's opposite your wiring. If we didn't live in a civilized society, he would have to go out and hunt for the sake of eating and for the sake of clothing himself and his loved ones. And we didn't do it when we were 20.
By the way, before civilized society, that was a 24-hour pursuit.
24 hours.
You couldn't store food. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm done for the day.
You gotta do this every day. I don't get to put this in the freezer and chill.
Right. Exactly.
I gotta do this every day.
Every day, all day.
And guess what? I don't have a gun.
Right.
I don't have boots and camouflage and all of these things that give me comfort. Before Nikes and all of that, I'm barefoot. I'm fashioning a weapon out of a stick and a stone that I've sharpened just enough to be a weapon to kill an animal 5 times, sometimes up to 8 times my size. And then for me to think, I can do this and I won't die.
Yes. You gotta be a little bit, you gotta be a little crazy, right?
To be a little crazy.
A little crazy.
So if your prefrontal cortex was attached too soon, you'd starve, bro. You would starve.
Which means you didn't survive, which means you're weeded out of the whole thing.
Everyone
dies. The only
dies.
ones who are going to survive are the ones that have that quality.
That have that quality, that have that wiring. She has that wiring with her prefrontal cortex because she's the giver of life, the carrier of life. She can't be out here thinking that she get ready to go up against an animal 8 times her size and she gonna survive while she got a child in her belly. That would be ridiculous. That's against God's design. There's nothing wrong with your son, ma'am. He's designed to do something completely different. Not wrong, different.
Now I'm catching 2 things. First of all, we got to be dedicated to coaching up men, boys.
Yes.
Men. Coaching. You call it apprenticeship, mentorship, and not just our sons, but young men in general. Second, they're
all our sons.
Right, they're all our sons. Second, we have to coach them up according to design. And right now, we're operating in systems that at every turn is telling our boys and us that the way we are is wrong. The way we are, we're more likely to get suspended from school. We're more likely to get disciplined. We're more likely to get held back. For the same behaviors, by the way, as young boys who are not Black.
And we don't have to say who, because we already know.
We already know. So, so the first thing is coaching, apprenticeship, mentorship, and helping to teach boys to become men, all of us.
Yes.
The second thing is to honor the design of them as boys and not constantly tell them there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you, boy. There's something wrong with you, boy. Because we know what happens then. By the time they're 13, they believe it.
And they will continue to act it out.
And they act it out. Act it out.
Here's why that's so important, Al, because Alfred, you and I know that it's so important for us to tell our boys, there's nothing wrong with you I'm just going to explain to you why you're doing what you're doing and why society frowns upon it.
What you're doing is cultivating an awareness in them of self.
Awareness of self. Now watch this. When I got married, I was 33 years old. Love my wife, never been more physically attracted to another woman than my wife. I thought, well, then that's it. The hunter in me is done.
Take a breath.
So well-intentioned, but so misinformed. We are very well-intentioned, but often too misinformed. I never stopped being, the hunter in me didn't die. The hunter in me still lived. What I had to realize was that I was never going to stop being a hunter. I'm still that now. What I had to realize was not that me being a hunter was inappropriate, me thinking that the world was still my reservation. That was the inappropriate part. I'm still a hunter. I'm only allowed to hunt on my reservation.
A healthy self-acceptance.
A healthy self-acceptance for self-awareness.
Yes.
And we have to give our boys self-awareness to say, hey, listen, you being a hunter is not inappropriate. How you walk out being a hunter can be inappropriate. So I'm now going to teach you how to be an acceptable hunter. How all of the instincts that you have in being a hunter can work to your advantage. All right. That has to be something that you are taught, because that's information and instruction. Just last night, my wife and I, we have a 3-day rule. Every 3 days. Why? Because I have to be able to hunt. And my wife knows that the health of our physical relationship is at stake if we're not doing that. I have often said, hey, listen, my job is to keep me out the street. Your job is to make it easy for me to stay out of it. I can hear sisters right now. What you saying? What you saying? It's her responsibility to make you be faithful? No, that's not what I said at all. I just told you that's my responsibility. However, if my wife loves me, it's her responsibility to help me make it easy for me to fight that battle. Let me give you an example. If you starve a person, let's say I gave you a great meal just now, Alfred. I said, brother, eat this meal right here. It's entree. Man, you ate like a king. You were full. You said, whoa, man, I can't eat one more bite. And I said, okay, I got you. Hey, brother Alfred, go over there to that garbage can, open up that garbage can. I want you to make another plate and eat. What?
Right.
Man, I'm not eating out no garbage can. You crazy? Who would eat out of a garbage can? I'll tell you who. A starving man.
Yes.
See, you've been fed. That garbage can looks very unappealing to you. You know why? Because you've been fed. It's easy for you to see how unappealing that garbage can is on a full belly. Let your belly growl for 5 days.
We see it every day in cities across the country.
Let your belly growl for 5 days. And then when I come back over to you and I say, brother Alfred, go make you a plate out of that garbage can now, after your belly has been growling for 5 days. See how appealing that garbage can is now.
Mm.
What am I saying? Starve a man who's supposed to be faithful, who's supposed to stay out of the street, when every single day there is a woman. You already know that there's a woman shortage. There is a woman looking to take your spot every single day. I don't have a man. I'll take care of that man if you don't want to.
It's true. It's real.
Starve that man in that area and see how difficult it is for him to continue to walk that out every single day when there is a woman looking to be on his starting team.
So we got.
That's why we got to have that. In my house, we have a 3-day rule because we know how healthy it is for the both of us. Because that physical connection speaks to another level of intimacy.
Right. Which makes another.
Those are just facts.
So we got coaching, we got making the nature of Black boys, Black males, not the problem, but,
yes,
but cultivating self-awareness.
Yes.
And now we have here, use this word, I think it's an important word, that often is denied or seen as not appropriate for Black boys, Black males, intimacy.
Intimacy.
Not sex, which is just not the physicality. It's the
That's
capacity
exactly right.
for intimacy, which requires
That's right.
trust, which requires honesty, requires emotional maturity. You talked about that,
That's
emotional
right.
spiritual maturity. That one of the things we need to do when we talk about where we go from here is to make intimacy a healthy thing for Black males in particular, because you don't get the rest of that stuff if we're not cultivating a sense of intimacy. And I don't mean just sexually intimacy. You and I have a brother-to-brother intimate relationship.
Intimate conversation. Yes, indeed.
Intimate conversation. We talk about all kinds of stuff. That's right. And I already told you, I think God makes it a rule that you and I got to cross paths once a year because of the effect that you have on us. So we're talking about an intimate relationship is a healthy relationship, whether it's between a man and a woman,
That's right.
a boss and an employee,
That's
a
right.
brother and a brother. And when we talk about some of the difficulties that we as Black men have in thriving in different systems and cultures, whether it's corporate America, college, a lot of it is, I don't know how to be safely intimate with the people around me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what we've also done is we've perverted the word intimate.
Yes.
The word intimacy. We've perverted that word. Intimacy immediately means something of a sexual nature.
Right.
So a brother would never use the word, me and my brother, we have an intimate relationship. Right. Brothers would never use that word because it's been sexualized. Yes. It's been perverted. And now to use a word like intimate or intimacy between two men is now gay. Yep. It is now something that is about us having a sexual, right? Yep. And it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Just like we are just getting to the point now, and we're further along. Certainly our fathers and our grandfathers didn't have this luxury, where we could say, oh yeah, I love that brother.
Yes.
We've come a long way, even today.
Long way.
To be able to even say that, and like you said, but because intimacy has been corrupted, or the idea of intimacy, particularly for Black males, we in terms of where we go from here, we have to be able to reclaim that as part of what it means to have healthy relationships, all kinds of healthy relationships in order to survive.
Because those, to that point, having those intimate relationships, my wife and I have intimacy outside of our bedroom. We created the 3-day rule as a way of saying, okay, hey, we do have intimacy outside of our bedroom. Let's not forget to have intimacy inside our bedroom, right? And the reason why is because when you have children, you're pouring so much into them.
Yes.
That sometimes you even forget to connect in that way. You do it from, sunrise to sunset. It's late, and now before you know it, oh, babe, yeah, okay, tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow. Yeah, well, don't worry about it. Tomorrow, for sure, tomorrow. And then before you know it, you've gone a month, 2 months, and nothing has gone down. Well, that will eat away at the fabric of your relationship, because that part of the relationship is absolutely essential. Don't underestimate it, right? It's not everything, but it is a
something.
thing.
It is
a
something.
necessary thing.
Yes. So and we only got a few minutes left, man. And again, you hit the thing I like about you is that you hit the points that when people say what we need to do from here, and they say, we need more education. Yeah, we do. We need economic opportunity. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
We need to bring down the barriers of racism and discrimination. Yes, we do. Do we need justice in the criminal justice system? Yes, we do. But when we talk about where we go from here, so much of it is about creating healthier boys who can become healthier men. Like you said, who can become I think the word you use, like the healing balm or the healing medicine of our communities.
The medicinal ointment.
Yes, the medicinal ointment. So in the few minutes we have left, I mean, you've laid out so many important things that get to the heart of what we need to be pouring into Black boys and Black men. And Black boys are future Black men. Well, at least they're future Black males. With our intervention, they could be future Black men.
Right.
What is maybe your final word when you ask the question, where do we go from here when we're talking about cultivating a healthy status for Black men going forward?
Yeah, I think it really is. I posted on my my Instagram just yesterday an image of Black men, brothers, holding this camera up, and and he's got it facing him.
Oh, I saw it, bro. I saw it.
Yeah. It's just like a wave, a sea of Black men bodies, dressed to the nines, taken care of, and you could see that these brothers had intimate relationship with each other.
Power, positivity,
closeness, yes,
unity, alignment.
Yes,
a beautiful thing.
A dynamic tribe of men who are intentional about walking out Black manhood. And I really feel like we need to begin to have more model. Listen, we are the models that our boys will mirror in our communities. Every day, I am often reminding myself, someone is watching your walk. Someone is watching your walk. And based on the way you walk, you will affect the way other people walk. So every single day, I am walking with the knowing that I am either going to activate or deactivate a brother's walk in this life based on how I navigate it. So we really have to become intentional about reaching out to our brothers, locking arms, forming a barrier that says, you're going to get everything that you need in order to become the man that you were intentioned to be when you were born. We need that level of love and accountability with and for each other. And until we get to that space, sadly, we're going to be doomed to repeat all of the great missteps that our people have made in and even outside this country. So really, we gotta pull in the rank and file and say, hey, let's go, let's get it, and turn them up.
Dondré, man, you're the gift that keeps on giving, bro. I mean, you're just underscoring exactly what I want to accomplish in this conversation. You're a living demonstration of why Black Men Excel, our event, exists, which, by the way, to your point earlier, was inspired by our Women of Power event, which I think 15 years in, it was kicking butt. And we were like, we need something like this.
We need something like this.
Like this, I'm just so grateful to you, not just for being on the show, I mean, but for the work that you're doing. It's just so encouraging. It's so needed. Yeah, of course, I wish you all the best as an actor, and and I'm a fan. And yeah, so Dondré's gonna be on there. I need to check that out. Yeah, but what I love you for is this work,
Yes.
and I so deeply appreciate you coming on, making these points. I feel fired up. I know it's like when I talk to Dondré, I'm gonna be fired up. Like time for me to, I got to give a speech tomorrow to a group of young men. And I'm like,
Love
this
it.
interview with Dondré is right on time.
Let's
So,
go.
so thank you so much, Dondré, for being
Of course,
a
bro.
guest on Beyond the Hype. I know we talked about a lot of things you're doing. Anything else we should be paying attention to? I know we should be following you. I follow you on social, so I know what you're posting. But what should we be looking out for you?
Well, next up is going to be a while I can't talk about the details, I will say next up on the agenda is a talk show.
Oh man, can't wait. I'm telling you, bro, I can't wait. Can't wait. But in the meantime, y'all, follow Dondré on social, easy to find.
Yes, sir.
Get his book, Male versus Man. That sounds like a good holiday gift, birthday gift. You just create an occasion and just get it and read it. Dondré, God bless you. God bless your family. Give my regards to your lovely wife, who I had the pleasure of interviewing at the American Black Film Festival a couple of years ago. Like you said, she ain't no joke and she ain't no punk.
She ain't no joke. Period.
And I just wish you all the best, man. Thank you for being on the show.
Likewise, my brother. Of course, anytime, anytime.
This is Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior VP Executive at Large at Black Enterprise. You're listening to another edition of Beyond the Hype. Don't forget to register for Black Men Excel, the virtual summit taking place November 17th and 18th this year. Dondré was a great speaker for us last year. You're going to have more dynamic brothers. And that event is about everything Dondré's talking about, that we got to uplift another generation and pour into one another so that we can, in fact, go someplace good. When we say, where do we go from here? Someplace good. So listen, thank you for joining us on behalf of Black Enterprise, the #1 Black media brand with more than 8 million unique visitors a month. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next edition of Beyond the Hype.